Hello and welcome to this special program by the Government of Guyana. This program, Government in Focus, will be a series of programs which focus in on the work of the government, beginning with the new government's selection of ministers by His Excellency, the President, Dr. Irfaan Ali. I have with me this afternoon three very special guests. I'll begin first with Ms. Annette Arjun Mertens, an environmentalist and businesswoman in her own right, as well as journalist and broadcaster, Mr. Ossie Rogers, who happens to be living in the diaspora, and Mr. Dhanraj Singh as well, an economist. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this very special program.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you all. If I may first, and I'll begin with Annette. On March 2nd, 2020, Guyana went to the polls and elected the People's Progressive Party as the government of their choice. On August 2nd, after much litigation, Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali was sworn in as the 9th Executive President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. 24 hours ago, we witnessed the selection of Dr. Ali's new cabinet. And there have been many raving reviews in relation to the individuals selected to serve in this new administration. I am going to invite you first, Annette, to reflect on not just the composition of the cabinet, but also the expertise and the skill set that they bring to the fore. Annette.
So thank you very much. And as you said, 24 hours ago, we were presented with President Ali's new cabinet. And I was thrilled to see first of all, the mix between our youth as well as gender. We have 7 female ministers, all with their own particular skill sets. So for me, it was a really impressive lineup. And I think in terms of moving forward with the program, President Ali was very clear that they are hitting the ground running. And I am very excited to see what this new team will bring. We've also seen some interviews, some excellent interviews done by Newsroom. I caught some with Minister Parag, Minister Rodriguez, speaking about their plans, or new tourism minister as well, Minister Waldron, I think it is. And they got me very excited by what they had in mind. So clearly they're aligned to a program that Guyana needs at this time. And I've been sending out congratulations and unconditional support.
Dhanraj, in your own estimation, and due to the reality that Guyana is poised to take off economically and is at an intricate crossroad in its own history. Examining from that perspective, examining the composition of the cabinet as an economist in terms of its capability to catapult Guyana to economic prosperity.
First, thanks for your question, Michael, and thanks for having me on your program. And to my other panelists, it's a pleasure to sit in your presence. My first impression of the cabinet was I was left in awe. And I was left in awe because I think for all of history, you know, you grow up in society and you're being told that the future belongs to the youth, the future belongs to the next generation. And what you saw in the cabinet, you could not help but to see that the cabinet reflects precisely that. It brought people from both generations. It brought people with lots of experiential knowledge, and it brought people who has an appetite for change, who has an appetite for innovation, who has an appetite for new thinking. So you're mixing, there was an excellent mixture in my point of view. And Annette mentioned some of them, and I would just like to highlight a couple of things. You saw a good mixture between, like I said, with experiential knowledge and persons who have training, professional training, and they're more forward thinking and thinking ahead and can bring some new ideas into the mix. You saw a good mixture of male and female. You saw a good mixture of racial diversity in the cabinet. And you also saw persons and individuals who have had experience in the government sector and persons who are coming from all other sectors in the economy. And when you have all those skills and experience fusing together on a single team, you're bound to perform well. I mean, the odds are in your favor. It's a good thing. It's an excellent cabinet in my view.
OC, the same question goes to you. However, specifically from the standpoint of, and being someone who is part and parcel of the communication sector, from the specific standpoint of the image, Dan Raj spoke specifically to some of it. He spoke about the ethnic diversity. He spoke about the gender balance and all the other things that make up the composition of this particular cabinet. However, of course, at the commencement of any government, each government looks to lay an impression on the citizenry as it seeks to serve. And very critical to that is the service. And very critical to the service of this particular cabinet, OC, is the fact that you have had people with significant experience in their own fields of work who have all brought in their private capacities much service to the Guyanese people. OC, I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Yes.
Sorry about that. Yes, of course, Michael. Once again, thank you for having me on the program also. Salutations to the other panelists. And I would want to say, after you listen to His Excellency first speech, he was talking about no lazy bones, and he was talking about bringing all of Guyana together. And I think when you look at the cabinet, it's a reflection of what he said. No lazy bones. I've known most of the cabinet ministers that were appointed, and I can tell you, they are workhorses. They're people who will get things done. And also, it's a cabinet that reflects Guyana. It's a cabinet that looks like Guyana, unlike what we had before. You have a mixture of everything there. Good balance of gender, of course. I know Mr. Singh spoke about that. A good balance reflecting our racial diversity, sorry. And you have that wonderful balance. So I would want to say that the cabinet is a reflection of the entire Guyana.
This question goes to everyone, and I'll ask each panelist to contribute to this directly. In terms of juxtaposing who have been selected to become members of the cabinet against the task at hand. And if I may insert my own impression, on Monday, for example, immediately less than 24 hours after being sworn in as the 9th executive president, Dr. Irfaan, His Excellency Dr. Irfaan, went straight to work. I am aware he met with the staff of his office, and also he would have had a number of meetings. OC, you spoke to what has not been before, a number of meetings with several key stakeholders in the Guyanese society, COVID-19 task force, joint services, diplomatic community, permanent secretaries, and the business community, and the list goes on. What are with the expectation of such energy, youth, diversity, and experience in the cabinet? Let's speak to the task at hand in terms of what are your expectations for Guyana in the initial days? Anyone, this question goes to anyone.
Well, if I could go first to just also add that in the interviews that I would have seen in the very short period, it was very clear that a lot of these new ministers had very good relationships with the rest of their colleagues, including the elders. And that augurs well, because undoubtedly they would have that tremendous support from the elders in the cabinet who would have served successive terms. And also it was very clear that a lot of the junior ministers have very sound legal and other backgrounds as well. So with their ministries and their permanent secretaries there to give them, all of the background support, I think they're on to a very good start. Ms. Rodriguez herself spoke about bringing her private sector culture and applying it in the public sector, which is very results oriented. And I think with the other colleagues who have also had immense private sector expertise, such as like Deodat Indar, I worked with him on the private sector commission. He is a very extremely results oriented guy. So for me, the expectation is that these ministers would deliver on what they have pronounced on so far in terms of their priorities. And of course, it's a very exciting time for us to also be supporting them in whatever way we can. I'm particularly excited about agriculture and tourism. Those are the two sustainable sectors that I think needs a lot of attention for our long-term sustainability. And that's all I'll say for now. I'll give my other colleagues their chance, and then I could come back.
Danraj, your take on the expectations looking ahead. Could you unmute yourself, Danraj?
There's a couple of things that I want to just share with us for some perspective on the same broad questions that you asked before. First, let me say that to attack this cabinet or to criticize this cabinet on the grounds of experience, this experience argument is a very, very ill-informed argument. And allow me to distill that, what I mean by that. First of all, let me take you back to a point in time, very far in history. 1518, the wisest men at the time and the women at the time on this planet had really thought that the world was flat. It took two inexperienced people to say, I want the evidence for that. And then they decide to prove that theory wrong. Here's another example. Let me bring it home. The last cabinet that we have seen in government has a distinct record of perhaps being one of the most experienced cabinet. Collectively, they may have possessed over 500 years of experiential knowledge. The question is, performance. Is there evidence to suggest that that experiential knowledge that was so talked about or so much of emphasis is on, did it deliver the results that you want? So I'm giving you these facts to put this entire discussion in perspective. Harvard did a lot of research on something that they called the inexperience advantage. What does that mean? It means when you have a mixture of people, some who might have a lot of experiential knowledge on something, and some who may not have that amount of experiential knowledge, there is an opportunity, there's an advantage on that team. And what is that advantage? It means if you come from a time or a period where the history or the experience to which you were privy to had a lot of bottlenecks, or society has changed significantly from that time, technology would have changed the world in a completely different way, you may actually find that much of the experience that some people have are a debilitating factor and not necessarily an enabling one. So people who might say, look, you have a young set of people there who don't have experience in this or in that, clearly doesn't understand the many different sides of this discussion. The last thing that I want to say about this is, look, experience is only one ingredient in delivering performance and success. You have to have formal education, you have to have informal education. Experiential education is certainly one of them. You have to have an ability to learn and open and listen to others and professional ideas and inputs. You certainly want to have people with an ambition that is going to drive change and bring new thinking on board. You also want to have people with honesty and integrity. At the end of the day, you're serving the public. And when you honestly look at this cabinet, you see those values that I just laid out come to life. And I would be lying to you if I tell you that is not genuinely how I feel. Allow me to say one thing more. Annette mentioned and touched on this before. You do not have to be the carrier of experiential knowledge. The question is, do you have access to it? And in that regard, if you look at the cabinet and the mixture that you have there, you have people with very good track record of experience and knowledge of how to run a government and how to run ministries and how to run departments. And as Annette mentioned, these individuals who are now coming on board with all the skills and the knowledge that they have access to these individuals' experience. They will make full use of it. So again, you have to put this in perspective and see this as an entire ecosystem of talent, experience, drive, a quest for wanting to do things differently. You have to put that and treat the ecosystem, evaluate the ecosystem, and not just an individual or any one person.
It's a very important point you raised, Dan Raj, because it also comes down to the whole notion of, and I'm going to bring you in on this issue very shortly, OC. So I beg your indulgence on this issue, because critical to performance also is the whole notion of relevance of skill set, and whether the skill set that you bring to, we've heard old people saying, square pegs in round holes. And that in essence sums up what is important and the whole notion of relevance to specific positions. I personally have walked with many of these and worked with many of these new ministers and those who are deemed inexperienced. And I must say for the record that they possess a significant knowledge of their specific areas of assignment. And also, in addition to the fact, it's very synonymous with what any PPPC administration brings to government. And that is the whole notion of being people-oriented and looking out more specifically, not only for the business class, but very big on the working class. OC, I beg your forgiveness for just inserting that aspect of the discussion. But again, to you, the whole notion of expectations.
All right. So, Michael, what I want to say, I want to point you back to in November 2015, Honorable Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, gave Canada its most diverse cabinet in the history of Canada. But he suffers severe backlash because of that. You want to know why? Because it was not what people are accustomed to see as a cabinet. However, those persons that Justin Trudeau selected, Honorable Prime Minister of Canada, that he selected, it was the cabinet that was able to deliver the most goods in any term, any prime ministerial term for any for the country. There were significant policy changes, and I would want to bring it back home. In 1992, when Cheddi Jagan formed Guyana's first cabinet, he received a lot of flack too, but it was those people that the naysayers were saying that was inexperienced, unintelligent, and every other thing that they attached to Cheddi Jagan's first cabinet. It was those same cabinet ministers that rebuilt Guyana from scratch. Every sector in Guyana was down and not performing. And it was those same ministers with from foreign trade to education to agriculture, those same ministers. Why? Because the PPP is not about a person, but it's about a team. And Dr. Irfaan Ali has spoken about the teamwork. So we're not focusing mainly on one person, because I know that's not how the party operates. It's a team. Everybody's, when one person is maybe, have a little issue in their area, there will be a team to support them to get the agenda of the government on foot or on track.
Thank you, OC. I want to bring to the fore the issue and have some discussions on the issue of qualifications, because it has coming to some question by naysayers and critics of the new cabinet. But just a brief housekeeping matter. I want to remind our viewers, from time to time, you may have to remind a contributor that they might be muted because of the novel coronavirus. We are doing this program remotely. We are all in 4 different locations. Mr. Danrad Singh and O.C. Rogers, they're both out of Guyana, actually. So, and we are, because of that, we are entirely and completely dependent on the quality of internet service. And also, we have to ensure that we bring you as good a quality program as possible. So sometimes we are made to mute our audio. Moving on, the issue of qualifications have been called into question. It is a very intricate and important component, ingredient to successful management. And Danraj, I'm going to begin with you on this particular issue. I believe, however, in my own view, when you look at the composition of this new cabinet, in my own view, it is an unjust comment, Danraj.
And I think, Michael, that is putting it very liberally and mildly to say that it is unjust. Again, you know, I'm trained as an economist.
I'm wearing a suit, my friend. I have to behave myself.
you know, I'm trained to always look at evidence when I speak on issue. And so I will have no more of a response than to go back again to the evidence. When you look at the cabinet and look at the qualifications of people, you have people who have the highest form of certification possible in finance. You have people who have master's degree at management level, economics level. You have people who are trained professional lawyers. And again, setting experiential knowledge aside, looking at purely formal education. You have people with bachelor's, master's, PhD degrees. I mean, seriously, what more do you want? Are we a better cabinet would have looked like what? What exactly? Would have a cabinet with 16 PhDs? Guess what? I can show you now professionals who have worked with some people even who have PhDs and said they're the most difficult people to work with, simply because they have lost a lot of touch of hands-on and what goes on the ground. So this whole idea about qualification, again, be honest with the people who you're commenting on, be honest with the Guyanese public, and look at and evaluate the people for what it is. You have genuinely qualified people on that cabinet. And like I said, you have people who are formally in formal education, way much more qualified than some, but that's where a team comes in. This is not going to operate with one person. I'll give you an example. I worked with Colin Kroll in the past. This is a professional who I've seen this man sit behind of a desk and make decisions with 10 region issues and the phone ringing in every 15 minutes on another matter that needs to be answered yesterday, not today. But he sat there till 8 in the night and will tell me, okay, is this something that I can put on hold? What do you think about this? He is engaging people while he's making decisions. So if having somebody like that and having somebody who's a trained manager can get the job done, that's what you want. I think Ossie mentioned earlier about getting square pegs in round hole. The worst thing you would want is to have somebody there who have 16 different degrees in all different highest from all the different schools, but they don't fit the job that you're giving them to do. So I would come back and rest my comment with the fact that when you look, even if you want to assess this team on pure academic qualification, it has passed the litmus test with true colors. And like, again, I am pretty confident that that team will deliver, especially given that the president has reiterated the focus ought to be deliverables, has to be output, it has to be performance.
Annette, how do you weigh the issue of qualifications especially if you juxtapose the whole notion of performance versus qualifications. Qualifications, as I said, a very important ingredient to the successful execution of any government. But do you think some comments have been just in this regard?
You know, the reality is the last 5 months, or I should say the last year and a half, has been so, you know, divisive. I don't think that, you know, people have gotten over the fact that, look, you know, we have to move forward and we have to stop being so negative. So that some of these ministers would have already been attacked. I haven't really seen the actual specifics or the details. But what I can say is that undoubtedly, this new cabinet, they have a very impressive professional and technical background. Also, most importantly, you can have a very impressive professional background, but you might not have that hunger and that fire in your belly to really, you know, do your utmost immediately. We have seen that in spades from a lot of the new ministers. And in a way, I think the current situation, unfortunately COVID induced as well, I think would have also resulted in a lot of these new ministers really understanding that they will have to work a lot faster and harder as well. And when you have a leader that has said very clearly, look, I am going to hold you accountable according to your performance, that in itself is incentive for you to really go all out. So for me, it's very refreshing as well to have seen, for example, you know, in the first 24 hours, we had consultations in some of the sectors that we're looking at that needs to be addressed immediately. You've also seen that President Ali has given his new cabinet the charge. He's met with them, he's met with the permanent secretaries. It's clear that we are moving at the speed of lightning in terms of getting those essential elements in place. So while you might have come in there with a super technical and professional cabinet, but then you might wait for 2 weeks to have your first meeting and then another 2 months to consult with your sectors. You're seeing that done in real time right now, which I think really and truly speaks for itself. And to the naysayers, I would say as well, to I'm sure whoever is criticizing right now, some of them might have also served in the past. And didn't we give you enough time to settle in and actually prove your worth? So why can't we offer the same generosity to this new cabinet? But I think by and large, there's a lot of people, a lot of Guyanese that are very supportive. And I think with that sort of very positive mindset looking forward, I think, you know, we're gonna go places.
Our time is practically gone, but in closing, I want to ask each of you, and I'll ask you to take 60 seconds in your summation of these issues. I, of course, raised the issue of optimism about this new cabinet in the context of Guyana's development, in the context of Guyana's anticipated trajectory. How optimistic are each of you? Annette, I'll begin with you in closing, 60 seconds.
Well, I think I said how optimistic I was in every single input I made, but in 60 seconds, absolutely, I am completely optimistic from what I've seen from the cabinet that we have in place and where we're going to be going. And I have also made it very clear that I am going to be given my unconditional support. So on a scale of 1 to 100, my optimism is 1000%.
OC, your optimism, 60 seconds. I know our broadcasters are usually not accustomed to being confined, but in control. But I'm going to confine you, your optimism.
All right, and I'll take that confinement. I would want to say to, first of all, I'm very optimistic because like I said before, His Excellency said no lazy bones. And when I look there, I see all people who have worked before. and who I am sure are prepared to work, and it is the reason why they got the nod from His Excellency to form part of the cabinet. To the naysayers, I say, give the ministers and the government a chance to deliver the goods to the Guyanese people. His Excellency has chosen the persons he thinks are best fit in their sectors to deliver the goods, and I'm asking Guyanese to give the people a chance, and I am sure that with the ministers and their team and His Excellency and everyone else that is in this rebuilding effort, I'm pretty sure that our nation is destined for good things again. They have got to start to build again from the scratch, and I know that they are confident, I'm confident, sorry, that they are going to get that job done. So I'm very optimistic, and I welcome this cabinet and welcome His Excellency's choice and look forward to the rebuilding of Guyana for every single Guyanese. Thank you.
Dan Raj.
Michael, to the people who are criticizing, my message is simple. Criticisms are important. It's necessary for having healthy public discourse. So I'm not just going to shun these individuals and say, well, you're criticizing, you don't have to criticize. Yes, but at the same time, the standard ought to be informed criticisms and thought out criticisms. And I think in that regard, the criticisms that we have seen of the cabinet have failed that litmus test. What I would leave with people is to say this. The people of Guyana elected Dr. Ali and his entire party, the PPP, and the leadership of that party to lead the country. It is of their informed judgment that people entrusted that decision to lead. And the cabinet that you're seeing today, it is a product of those informed decisions and judgment that they have made. And I would sound the same alarm as every one of my colleagues on the panel that says, allow these individuals to go out, allow them to step on the learning curve like every single one of us who starts a new job. There will be a learning curve, and then allow them to deliver. And I am not just optimistic, I am confident, because like I said, I know some of these individuals. I know what they stand for, I know the principles, and I know how they work. I am pretty confident that they're going to deliver for Guyana, especially at the time where we are, at the crossroad where we are in our development.
His Excellency Dr. Irfaan Ali administration has begun work at an intense pace. And in this regard, we will continue to focus on the work of this new administration. This has been government in focus. I'd like to thank environmentalist Annette Arjun Martins, journalist and broadcaster Ossie Rogers, and Mr. Danrad Singh, an economist. I am Michael Gordon. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.